A lot of time when I sit down to meditate, it doesn't take very long for my mind to wander, and I'll start thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner or start thinking about work. But sometimes I can rest in open awareness and I will notice as a thought arises while still staying fully aware of everything else that's going on in my experience. There is no desire for anything to be different. There is no judgment. And with that comes a sense of peace. I think this is a glimpse of what the Tibetan Buddhists call Rigpa. Rigpa is a term from the Dzogchen tradition in Tibetan Buddhism, and it says that the mind is already complete. It is already luminous. It is already free. Nothing needs to be added or taken away. Rigpa is what is revealed when the ordinary mind settles. You can't generate it by trying harder. It is more like what was already there, underneath the noise, waiting to be recognized. The Dzogchen teachers were working in Tibet, working in a particular culture and tradition, using particular vocabulary. But if you look across different traditions, you'll see that this same kind of realization appears across centuries and across continents and across languages. In 3rd century Rome, the philosopher Plotinus described what happens at the peak of contemplation. He wrote about the soul's ascent toward what he called the One, the source of all being, prior to distinction and division. And he said this wasn't the soul arriving somewhere new, he said it was the soul realizing what it already was. This moment of union, what he called henosis, was the moment where the distinction between the one who sees and what is seen collapses. That could have been written by a Dzogchen master. Now, in 4th century BCE China, Chuang Tzu tells a story about a student called Yen Hui who is returning to his teacher, Confucius, to report his progress. Yen Hui says to Confucius, "I'm getting better." And Confucius says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "I have forgotten kindness and justice." But Confucius says, "Fine, but that's not enough." So then later, Yen Hui comes back and says, "I have forgotten rituals and magic." And Confucius says, "Good, but that's still not enough." And then later, he comes back again and he says, "I can sit right down and forget everything." Confucius asks him what he means by this. And he says, "I have cast aside my wisdom and I am united with the Tao. This is what sitting right down and forgetting is." Then Confucius says, "If you are one with the Great Way, then you no longer have preferences. If you are one with the cosmos, then you are transformed. If this is what you have done, then I would like to follow you." So the teacher now wants to learn from the student because the student has progressively let go of everything that the mind clings to until nothing remains except union with the Tao. No preferences, no division, just awareness resting in the undivided flow of things. This is pointing to the exact same thing as Rigpa. Move forward to 14th century England. An anonymous Christian monk wrote a short text to guide a student in contemplative practice called The Cloud of Unknowing. He said that at a certain point during prayer, every thought must be released. He said you must let go of even thoughts about God or about holy images or about theological concepts. What remains he calls naked intent, a bare open awareness, just resting in a direct presence that is stripped of all mental content. You could imagine a Tibetan teacher giving the exact same instructions. And then there is the Mandukya Upanishad, one of the oldest of the Indian philosophical texts. It describes 4 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, but then a 4th state, which it says is not inwardly cognitive, not outwardly cognitive, not cognitive both ways, not a mass of intelligence, neither intelligent nor unintelligent, unseen, unrelated to anything, ungraspable without distinguishing marks, inconceivable, indescribable, the essence of the knowledge of the one self, the state where manifestation ceases, peaceful, benign, undivided. That is known as the 4th. That is the self. It is the awareness in which the other 3 states arise. It is the underlying state. It is the same as Rigpa. So Plotinus in 3rd century Rome, Chuang Tzu in 4th century BCE China, an anonymous monk in 14th century England, the Dzogchen masters in Tibet, the Upanishads in ancient India, all over the world, the same movement keeps happening. This movement away from the distracted, divided, busy mind towards something prior, something that's revealed when the noise quietens enough for us to see clearly. So how do we recognize Rigpa? Well, the instructions in Dzogchen are often very simple. Don't force anything. Don't try to change anything. Rest in open awareness with acceptance and non-judgment. Look at what is aware right now. When we recognize this, even briefly, our problems don't disappear. We still have to face loss and problems and difficulties in life, but our grip loosens and the wave is still moving, but underneath we can see the stillness of the ocean. So just keep sitting, keep returning, and when the mind starts to settle and clarity comes and the boundary between inside and outside starts to soften, and all that remains is this awareness, this presence, then recognize that as something that really was there the whole time. That is what the Tibetans called Rigpa, and they weren't the only ones to discover it. So maybe take a moment to go and sit in silence, or if you'd rather keep the conversation going, then watch this video next.